If you watched the first video in this series, you already know why soft retirement makes sense. Fewer hours, more autonomy, a structured transition instead of a hard stop. The concept is solid. But here's where most people get stuck. They like the idea, they just do not know if their numbers actually work. Hi, I'm Kurt Rose, CPA, former CFO. I retired at 61 and I have been building Retirepreneur in real time since then. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm a complete beginner at YouTube. In fact, my family has let me know that I look like a hostage and I need to relax a little bit, but I am trying. Anyways, when I look at retirement decisions, I look at them the same way I looked at every financial decision in my CFO career. What are the numbers, where are the risks, and what does the math actually say? That is exactly what this video is, the soft retirement math. 3 specific numbers you need to know before you make any transition decision. And 2 variables most financial advisors never bring into the conversation until it's a little bit too late. I call this the gap, bridge, runway framework. By the end of this video, you will have a clear picture of what your plan needs to hold. Let's get into it. Here is the stat that tells you why the math matters more than the mindset. 75% of workers expect to work for pay during retirement. Consulting, part-time roles, maybe passion projects that keep income flowing while they step back from full-time demands. And that intention is sound. The soft retirement concept makes sense to most people, but only 29% of retirees actually do it. That's less than 1 in 3. The gap between those 2 numbers is not a motivation problem. It is usually a math problem. Most people never build a concrete income model before they make the transition decision. The plan exists in their head, but the numbers never make it to paper. That is what this video fixes. Soft retirement only works when you define 3 specific numbers before you transition, not after, not during, before. The first is your gap, the second is your bridge, and the third is your runway. Think of these as a 3-legged stool. You can have a gap and a bridge and still get into trouble without a runway. You can have a bridge and a runway, but if you have not calculated your real gap, your bridge target is wrong from the start. All 3 have to be calculated together, and that is the framework this video walks you through. Now, let me preface this by saying these calculations are an example, just to lay out the logic. They can be very complex, and I recommend that you work these calculations through with your financial advisor. Before we get into the calculations, look at this research because it is an important context. Only 40% of workers approaching retirement have calculated their expected healthcare costs. Only 41% have calculated their long-term care needs. These are not minor line items. They are 2 of the largest expense categories in any retirement budget. What this tells me as a CPA is that most retirement plans are built on optimism and not data. People know they need a plan, very few have actually run the numbers. If you are watching this video and doing the calculations, you are already ahead of most people in your situation. Step 1, calculate your monthly gap. Your gap is the foundation of this entire framework. Get it wrong and everything downstream is built on a flawed base. Here is the calculation. Take your actual monthly expenses in soft retirement, not a projection, not a rule of thumb like 80% of your current income, but your real number pulled from actual spending over the last 3 months. Subtract every dollar of guaranteed income you can count on. Social Security, if you are already receiving it, pension income, if you have one, any part-time or employment income that is already confirmed. What remains is roughly your gap. Again, as I said before, these calculations can get far more complex than this. However, this is just an example to follow. So that is the number your bridge must cover every single month. 2 things to be careful of here. Underestimating expenses is the most common error I see. People forget to account for healthcare premiums before Medicare, increased travel spending in early retirement, home maintenance and costs that used to be covered by an employer benefit. Those numbers add up fast, and overestimating guaranteed income is the second most common error. Do not count Social Security income you have not modeled precisely. We will cover that in a few minutes. Your gap number drives every other decision in this framework, so be precise. Step 2, build your bridge. The bridge is the income source you control. This is not passive income, it is professional income, consulting, coaching, fractional executive work, advisory roles that you generate on your own terms and timeline. Here is why this model is realistic for professionals in their 50s and 60s. According to MBO Partners 2025 data, senior professionals command day rates between $1,500 and $3,500. That is not a guess or an aspiration. That is the market data for independent consultants in the field right now. At those rates, most professional income gaps can be covered with 2 to 4 days of client work per month, not 2 to 4 days per week, but per month. Think about what that means practically. If your gap is, say, $4,000 per month and your day rate is $1,500, you need fewer than 3 consulting days per month to close it completely. That leaves the rest of your time for everything else Soft Retirement is supposed to give you. The bridge is not about rebuilding a full-time career. It is about closing a specific number with a controlled income source. Step 3, calculate your runway. Runway is the number of months your liquid savings can sustain your full monthly expenses without any bridge income coming in at all. This is your margin of safety. Every business has slow months. Consulting pipelines take time to build. A client engagement ends unexpectedly. Runway is what separates a slow quarter from a financial crisis. Most credentialed financial planners target a minimum of 12 to 24 months of runway before any client enters a soft or phased retirement. That means if your monthly expenses are $7,500, you want $90,000 to $180,000 in accessible savings that are not your long-term retirement accounts before you make the transition. With adequate runway, you make decisions from a position of strength. You take on the clients you want, you set rates that reflect your value, you say no to work that does not fit. Without it, a single slow quarter forces premature portfolio withdrawals at exactly the wrong time. You now have 3 numbers: gap, bridge, runway. That is the foundation. But here's what I want to be direct about, because this is where the CPA lens matters. 2 external variables can quietly undermine a plan that looks perfectly solid on paper. Most people never model either of them until it's too late. The first is Social Security timing. If you are generating bridge income before you reach full retirement age, the Social Security earnings test may reduce your benefit in ways you did not plan for. That interaction has to be modeled before you set your bridge income target, not afterwards. The second is healthcare. If soft retirement starts before age 65, you have a Medicare gap. For some people, that gap is 2 years. For others, it is 7. That cost belongs inside your gap calculation, not as a footnote you deal with later. The next 3 cards cover both of these in specific numbers. Before we get to Social Security and healthcare, one more piece of the math that almost never comes up in retirement planning conversations, and that is sequence of returns risk. A market downturn in the first 5 years of retirement can permanently impair a portfolio. If the market drops significantly in year 2 and you are fully dependent on your portfolio to cover expenses, you are selling assets at exactly the wrong time, and those losses get locked in forever. There is no recovery window once you have made those withdrawals. Look at the 2 scenarios on the screen. Scenario A, no bridge income, portfolio drawn down during a downturn, loss is permanent. Scenario B, bridge income is active. The portfolio is left untouched, recovery and the compounding potential is preserved. The bridge is not just a monthly income solution, it is a volatility insurance on your life savings. Every month your bridge covers expenses is a month your portfolio has to recover and compound on its own terms. Now the Social Security math. This is specific and important. In 2026, if you are below full retirement age for the entire year, the Social Security earnings test exempt amount is about $24,480. For every $2 you earn above that threshold, Social Security Administration withholds $1 in benefits. In the year you actually reach full retirement age, the higher exempt amount is $65,160. At that point, the withholding rate drops to $1 for every $3 above the higher threshold. Here is why this matters for your bridge strategy. If you claim Social Security early and your consulting income exceeds $24,480, you are giving back a portion of your benefit. The solution is not to avoid consulting income. It is to model both decisions together before you make either one. Your Social Security claiming age and your bridge income target cannot be planned in isolation. They interact with each other, and that's exactly the kind of calculation a tool like Bolden is built for. And I will come back to that in a moment. The second variable, healthcare. Medicare begins at 65. If soft retirement starts at 58, 60, or 62, you have a gap. Up to 7 years without employer-sponsored coverage that has to be privately funded. Based on KFF 2025 data, unsubsidized silver plan premiums for 60-year-old average $1,100 to $1,600 per month. If you're planning as a couple, you can sort of double that exposure. And I can concur, these numbers are pretty accurate because I'm living it. That is a real number that belongs in your gap calculation on day one. Not as a line item you will figure out later. If your gap is $4,300 and you forget to include $1,200 per month in healthcare premiums, your real gap is $5,500. Your bridge target is wrong by 28% before you even start. Healthcare is one of the most commonly underplaying costs in any retirement transition. You now know the number, so build it in. Here's the complete framework on one slide. The gap, your real monthly expenses minus all guaranteed income. Do not estimate it, calculate it from actual numbers. The bridge, the controlled professional income that closes your gap. 2 to 4 days of senior level consulting or coaching work per month is often enough. Runway, the months your savings sustain full expenses without any bridge income. Target 12 to 24 months minimum before you transition. And the rule that ties all three together, gap covered, bridge built, runway secured. When all three are in place, Soft Retirement is not a concept. It is an executable plan. Let me show you what this looks like with a concrete example. Same household under two approaches, monthly expenses of $7,500, guaranteed income of $3,200 from a combination of part-time work and a small pension. That leaves a gap of $4,300 per month. In the traditional approach, there is no bridge. The portfolio draws down $4,300 every single month to cover that gap. In a down market, those withdrawals continue regardless of what the portfolio is doing. In the Soft Retirement approach, bridge income of $4,300 comes from two consulting clients. The portfolio is untouched. It compounds through market cycles, including the down ones. The math is not complicated, although it can be certainly. The difference in long-term portfolio outcomes between these two scenarios is significant. This is not a lifestyle choice, it's a financial outcome. Now, this is a hypothetical illustration. Your numbers will be different, but generally the structure is the same. 3 specific actions to take this week. First, calculate your real gap. Pull 3 months of actual spending, subtract every confirmed income source, and that is roughly your number. Second, model your bridge and your Social Security timing together using Bolton. This is a software tool that I use and is a software tool that I highly recommend. The tool handles the earnings test interaction, Medicare cost modeling, and portfolio scenarios in one place. And the link is in the description below. Third, subscribe to the YouTube channel for video 3. We are covering how to negotiate a soft retirement with your employer. That is a conversation most professionals never have, and the one that makes the financial plan executable. Gap, bridge, runway, 3 numbers, 1 framework. Most soft retirement plans fail not because the concept is wrong, but because the numbers were never defined clearly before the transition decision was made. You now have the framework. The calculations are in the description, along with the Bolton link for the financial modeling and a subscribe button for our YouTube channel so you can see video 3. This is a math problem with a real solution, so run your numbers and keep building.